Okay, so this story is actually I don't know how familiar you are with reoccurring dreams. Because you get used to them. They're the same. They're the exact same. The first time they happen, they're very jarring. They're very, it's usually, at least for me, it's usually some kind of nightmare. So some people have reoccurring dream where it's just like a regular dream. For me, it's usually a nightmare. It started when I was really, really young. So I was playing outside with like toys or something like that. And I was on the front porch and there would be like a gust of wind. It would get a chill. I would look up and everyone was gone. I grew up with 10 or 12 people in the same house easily. So this was very unusual to be completely alone. Except there was one person staring at me at the edge of the front yard. He would always be wearing like a robes. Maybe like monkish robes, like kind of like drab kind of color. A rope like sash around his waist. And his head, he had like a hood, but it was pulled back. It's very short, kind of stocky. And he would just stare directly at me. I immediately would get this feeling that I should leave. I would stand up and I'd keep my eyes on him. I'd walk into the house, close the door, look out the window, and he would still be staring. Usually I would wake up at around that point. It was, very difficult to process when I was a little kid, but, it's a dream. But then I started having to get the dream again and again. It actually got to the point that I would know I'm in a dream. And I was so used to this. I was almost expecting it. And it would never change. I would feel the gust of wind. It was usually about the gust of wind where I would realize, okay, I'm in a dream. I know what's going to happen next. I look up, everyone's gone. I see this man standing at the edge of the yard. I would keep my eyes on him, and I would walk into the house and close the door. Look out the window, almost like this will wake me up now. I will look out the window, I'll see him, the dream will end. And I had this for several years, to the point that it was normal. It wouldn't affect me anymore. The only thing that changed was that I would get older in the dream. I was always the age that I was when I had it. So maybe starting at like 10 and then 11 and 12. Eventually we moved to a new house that didn't have a yard. And he would stand at the edge of the driveway. There was a gravel driveway. But I was maybe not playing with toys anymore. I was just maybe standing outside or something like that. Even though it didn't scare me, I guess I always woke up with like a chill, like a spine tingling chill. You feel it on the back of your neck. You can feel it on your arms, like goosebumps. And nothing would change, except for one day, I stare at him, and he takes one single step forward. I was terrified. In the dream, I was terrified. I recognized it was a dream, but this is something that's not supposed to happen. At this point, something was different, and it shouldn't have happened. I turn around, I take off running towards the house. I slam the door. I look out the window, and he's not there. I wasn't watching him while I was walking towards the house. I always step away, keeping my eyes on him until I would get in. This time I turned around and ran. I don't know where he is. This became the normal dream for a while. And this one always unsettled me. I never got used to this one. A few years go by. Again, I keep having it to the point that I guess this is just my life. Now I'm going to have this dream over and over again. You always wake up after a night. It's like, okay, You feel around. You make sure you're fine. This isn't really happening. But you still can't shake that feeling for a while. And that was annoying to some degree because couldn't get a good night's sleep whenever I would have this dream. It kind of escalated a little bit. He would take more than one step at a time, or multiple steps. Eventually, he wasn't running, it was just a constant walk towards me. And I could never keep track of him because I tried to run as fast as I could to get back in the house because at the very least I could wake up. I had the dream one more time, I think maybe in my 20s. And I make it back to the house. I spin around, shut the door, and I look through the window of the door, and there he is, face almost pressed against the glass. And he's pushing through the door. I can't, I'm ramming my shoulder into it. I can't close it. And I'm thinking, is anyone, because there's no one, like I said, every time, everyone just disappears. I can't get any assistance because there's no one around. And he speaks in this strange voice. You think of like a scary voice that must be deep or loud or, violent. It's calm and almost kind of quiet. And he looks at me and he says, "Why won't you let me in?" And I just give everything I can. I instinctually know something is wrong. It's always bothered me, whatever this is. And I ram into the door. It finally clicks, locks, I flip the lock. I look up and he's gone. I have not had that dream since. But I'm convinced that if I had to let him in, something terrible would happen. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it means. But I have never had that dream since then.
Because now I'm thinking of a recurring dream I'd have. Not quite that. Pretty scary, but not to that level. I used to have this dream and sometimes a friend or two would be with me, and sometimes it's just me. I would be in this big concrete place, just concrete everywhere. And this figure, he'd never be actually chasing me. He'd be walking. And no matter how fast I ran, whenever I turned around, he would be there. And the weird part about those dreams were sometimes I would wake up, fall back asleep, and it would pick back up right where it was. And sometimes it would be a week later, it'd pick back up where it left off again. It was like one continuous loop. He was kind of like Michael Myers, but not quite. It's scary even. But he was just like after me, but never really wanted to catch me. It's weird. Yeah. If he was literally able to I was never able to make ground on him, he could have caught me. It's almost like he didn't want to catch me. That's what your story reminded me of.
That was kind of how I had the kind of same feeling. It was just, I had this instinct to just get away. And I don't even know exactly why.
But it's weird because when I had these dreams, I was in almost like another world. It felt like another world in a whole different place. But yours is like maybe a different world, but it's the same place at your house.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is weird.
Yeah, it's very, very wild. It was unsettling for the longest time. I was expecting to have the dream again, because I had it for, 15 years probably at that point.
How often were you having it? Did it depend?
At least once a week.
Did you ever have two in the same night or not?
No, every time it would end kind of pretty formulaic. As soon as I would look out the window, I would wake up. It would be basically the next day. It was ready to be awake.
I know what you're saying though, because I knew it was a dream when this happened to me. And I would think I'm going to wake up from this dream. And it was so long ago, I'm trying to remember exactly, but I almost feel like I could wake myself up. Then when I couldn't, that was terrifying. So you were fully aware that this was a dream.
Yeah, certainly after you do it enough times, after you get the same dream over and over again, I feel like it's oh, I've been here before. I kind of know what's going to happen next. And at the same time, I still want to be awake because this is terrifying.
Did this guy in your dream look like anybody or anything you'd seen before?
No, I meant to describe his face. It was very big, wide, almost and also I say cartoonishly wide, but like to the point that it would, take up the entire window. Not like, it wasn't like a big window. This was just like a door. So I would say maybe like twice the size of my head or so. So it was just like a very big face. There was something off-putting about it. It was almost like a, I did mention a cartoony kind of look, because it was almost like as if someone was drawing a face that was trying to make a really ugly looking face. That was kind of the way I would describe it.
Whenever you woke up, did you actually ever go check out the window in real life?
I did, but like I said, I grew up with like, when I was younger, it was like 12 to 15 people. So there was like a pretty good sense of security, I guess I could say. I had to kind of like climb over other people who were asleep to go look out the front door. As I got older, there was
like your Home Alone movie.
Yeah, it was kind of like that.
It's a good question, though. I like that question.
Yeah.
Someone else asked, how deep of a pitch was the voice?
No, it was like really soft. It was almost like
you said, calm.
Yeah, calm. It was like soft.
How big was the person? So a lot of people were being asked for a better description of the person.
Right. So I actually do remember this person. Most of the time, I would say like right at 5 foot, maybe a little bit less even, like very kind of on the shorter scale. I definitely got the feeling that this person was an adult. However, when it came to the door, I was actually more shocked that they were able to be at the window, like at my height.
Did he look different then than ever before? Or did he always look the same?
He always looked the same. I never got quite that good of a view of his face before that point, because he was always at the end of the driveway or at the end of the yard or something like that. But this was like face to face. Like it was just like the only thing separating us was the glass. And well, yeah, like I said, it was terrifying. It was terrifying at the time. And
how did he stand?
Well, normal. I mean, I guess you would say just kind of relaxed. I guess I would say relaxed would be the best way to put it. His shoulders were down. It was almost like he was just passively watching me, and staring directly at me. Obviously, I was the only one around in the dream. And then when he was walking towards me, it was very clearly, you can kind of like look at my eyes. That's kind of like he was just kind of looking directly at me like that.
Did you ever tell anybody?
I think I did. But it's like most of the time with a dream, it's like you tell someone a dream and it's almost never quite as interesting as it is to yourself, I guess. And also it never seemed to resolve. And so I didn't really know what to say about it other than there was a guy that was watching me. And as it sort of started to escalate over the years, I was so used to it that I felt like this was just for me. I don't know what it means, but it's just for me. And after it was completely over, I was like, I had to really go back and really analyze everything that happened. It was like, wow, I don't know how to describe it other than this is just like a dream of a guy who was, I guess, trying to get into the house all along, I guess.
Someone else is asking, did you ever think about doing something different in the dream? What would happen?
Actually, I was always scared of doing something different. That was the one thing I was like, if I do something different, what is he going to do? I know that if I get in the house, I close the door and then I can wake up. That was always my number one priority. When things started changing, I did try something else. I did try to, I don't know, run to a different door. There was the front door and the back door of the house. I would try to figure out do I need to do something different to make him go back to not walking onto the yard? And you're in that moment of in a dream space where things sometimes make sense and sometimes they don't make sense. And so you just kind of try to make a decision.
Some good questions. When did you know that the dream had started? Was there a transition from another dream? How long into the dream did it take you to realize before you were in this scenario?
When I first had the dream, I had weird nightmares before, I don't know, running from a wheat thresher or something like that in a field. Weird stuff, terrifying. And I'm like, oh, it never happened again. It was just like, oh, that was a weird dream. That was kind of scary. I'm glad it's not real. Like I said, I was maybe 9, 10 when it first started. And when it started happening more than once, I would wake up and go, oh, that's the exact same dream. And then it happened a couple more times. And then it was at some point, maybe, I don't know, 6th, 7th time, that's when I started to acknowledge it in the dream.
Haven't had any more questions pop up. Luke, what do you think?
This is definitely the first time I've heard this dream. This is very odd because normally, Jack would tell me stuff like this. But then again, I kept the ghost from him. So
yeah, I've had the turn of events.
Yeah, I've had recurring dreams before. You guys both described a similar kind of thing, like a person coming at you or something like that. Mine were never like that, but I did have a recurring nightmare of this creature that would always kill someone in my family. And I would wake up realizing I failed again to stop it from happening. And after a while, I kind of got a sense that I could control the dream, so I would try to stop it the next time. Always failed every time. It was probably about 7 or 8 years I would have the same type of dream, the same creature. I actually needed to maybe use like something like some sort of AI art assistant or something to draw it at some point, because I could tell you what it was. Well, I could break it down after thinking about it for a few minutes, but it was always something horrible, something I'd never seen before in any movie, or and it was the same thing. But yeah, this, to me, that seems a little more silly than like Jack's and yours did, because something about those two dreams seems unsettling, like something else that shouldn't be here was there.
Looking back at it, you're always like, what would have happened if I would have approached this being or whatever it was? In my case, it was a man that had the mask, and I never really know I can't even describe what the person looked like, if that makes sense. It's like he was always just far enough away, but never close, but always never not far away. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it, but
Jeff Townsend Media. CG, good night.
And the question is, do I stay here? Will you be back? Are you gonna come back? Will you be back? Are you coming back?